Hi, good morning. Thanks for joining us. My name is Joanna Nelson, and I am with the New Mexico Economic Development Department, and I'm a finance development specialist and help to run our webinar series. We host these webinars every month and try to cover topics that are relevant to economic development. So today we are really excited about the webinar and the panelists that have joined us today. The title of this webinar today is called Sustainable Companies and Communities, How and Why. So we've got Glenn Schiffbauer, Carolyn Pars, and Don Boulware that are joining us, and these are experts. These are really great people that have some really good insight into this topic. So we're going to delve into this. Before we get started, I did want to mention that we are recording this. So this will be on our YouTube channel, and we will send out the link to that hopefully today or tomorrow, as well as the presentation. And when you get the link, you'll have access to our New Mexico Economic Development YouTube channel, and you can access the previous webinars too. You can see a lot of different topics that we've covered. So before we do get started, I did want to give you a little bit of background about the finance development team here at the Economic Development Department. We are based here out of Santa Fe. Obviously, we focus on the whole state, and it's very snowy here this morning. It's really pretty, but we're nice and warm inside. Our services include just basic financial review and assistance. How can we help communities and businesses access capital? Anything around that we can help with, and we'll look at it. So reach out to us, connect with us, and we'll provide you with resources. We manage a variety of programs. We do manage the Local Economic Development Act, the LEDA Fund, Fundit, New Markets Tax Credits. We work with New Mexico Finance Authority on that. Our New Mexico Collateral Assistance Program, the Rural Efficient Business Program, and Opportunity Zones. So those are the ones that we're really getting our hands dirty with. So I'm not going to go into detail about those. I will a little bit later, the ones that are relevant to our topic today. But if you have any questions, reach out and we'll talk about it more. Did want to briefly touch on the role that Fundit plays, Fundit-Community, because these webinars are in part of Fundit's mission. Fundit is a group of funders that get together quarterly to discuss and collaborate, brainstorm about how to find funding opportunities and funding sources to fund economic development, community development, public projects, infrastructure projects. So at those meetings, that's where we're hearing presentations from communities that have projects. That's where they're getting direct feedback, direct insight into respective funding programs from our funders. So there you have, I think we've got over 15 different funders from state and federal entities. So that's where you have USDA, EDA, all the fund government acronyms. We have the state funding agencies, Department of Transportation, Indian Affairs, Department of Environment, Energy, Minerals, Natural Resources. So you're getting access to direct folks that have the ability to make funding decisions. So really great program. If you have projects, reach out to us. Our upcoming meeting is in December. I think the cutoff for applications is December 3rd. So go ahead and apply. It's a really simple application, and that's where you can figure out and navigate different funding opportunities that are available to your project. we are launching a Fundit-Small Business, and this is actually, the name is even in right now kind of changing, but the idea behind Fundit-Small Business is very similar to Fundit-Community in the way that we want to help connect businesses to funding, and as well, we want to help the funders connect to the small business projects, because just as much as small businesses are looking for money and financing, we have financiers here in the state that are looking for projects. So the idea behind this is two-part. We host an in-person event called the Small Business Finance Fairs, and at these events you can go and you can connect with over 20, 30 different lenders in your local region. We had one in Taos that was a big success. We had about 30 different lenders there, and small businesses, we had about 150 small businesses attend, and that's where they're making connections, they're meeting lenders, and they're shopping their project around and making those connections and seeing what resources are available to help. And then we have an online component. We have the capacity on our website that you can submit an application, really simple summary of your project. I'm a small business. I want to purchase solar panels. I'm looking for $30,000. I've been in business 3 years. Just really basic information. We'll take that information, we'll summarize it, and we shoot that out to our list of lenders all over the state. And hopefully you'll get some emails back of lenders that are interested in financing your project. So we have a finance fair coming up in Albuquerque. That's our next one, and that'll be January 16th, and that'll be at the Electric Playhouse in Albuquerque. So stay tuned for that. Oh, and look, I didn't update this, but it says Albuquerque, November. That date has been moved to January. So we'll give you a little bit more information about that. And then these are just more resources. If you do go to our website, gonm.biz, we have what's called a funding map or a resource map, and this can help communities or businesses kind of filter through the funding sources that are available. And if you see this image on the right hand of your screen, you can see that here are the different categories that often are in a project. So you might have different components in a project that you're working on: housing, infrastructure, planning, transportation, water. And so then you can just narrow it down. If you have community development, you're a rural community, and then it's just going to filter the options that are available to you. So this can be really helpful because, as you know, it can be a big thing to navigate. Where do you go for funding? How do you pay for something? So I mentioned our webinars that we have as well. Those are really good resources. And then here's the link at the top of where to go to apply if you're interested in applying to Fundit. So hopefully that gives you an idea of some resources that we have for finance options. And I want to introduce Glenn Schiffbauer, the Executive Director of the Santa Fe Green Chamber of Commerce. And Glenn has been the director for how many years now? 6 years. So been really instrumental in orchestrating and helping the collaboration around sustainability for communities, for companies, really getting the topic into discussions around the state. So we're really thankful that he's here today, and really looking forward to his presentation. So take it away.
Thank you, Joanna. And thank you for everybody who's listening. I'm doubtful that we would be as entertaining as Adam Schiff or Jim Jordan, so I appreciate those of you who are here. As we said, the Green Chamber of Commerce began about 6 years ago, and it was really the idea of two physicians here in Santa Fe who were at a public hearing, and somebody from another business organization stood up in support of something that they were not in support of, and represented themselves as the voice of business in New Mexico. And both of these gentlemen wondered if that was in fact true with as many different types of businesses as there are in New Mexico. So they started a nonprofit called the Partnership for Responsible Business as a 501c3, and because they can't lobby as much, the New Mexico Green Chamber of Commerce was created to help with some of those efforts in lobbying and advocacy. The triple bottom line is the basis of all of our mission and values, which is making sure that people, planet, and profit are all treated equally. We know that you can't be a sustainable business if you can't sustain your business by not being profitable. So what we've done is looked at how you can bring all those things together and be successful, but also make sure that you take care of your social responsibilities as well as environmental. The way we do that is threefold. One of the legs of our stool is through education. And we have been very blessed, especially here in Santa Fe, that we have many resources that are available. You're going to be able to see two resources after I'm finished with Carolyn and Don Boulware, who are also out there getting the message out there. But in the case of Taos Ski Valley, also they are living it, and they are an example of how it can work. We've been using our educational experiences, or we've been putting those forth through speaker appearances. We have used some of the epitomes of sustainable entrepreneurs. I mean, most people think of Robert Redford as an actor, but actually with what he has done in Utah, he was probably one of the first environmentally triple bottom line entrepreneurs that we have. Nell Newman also, there's not any coincidence, I don't think, that the Newman-Redford connection is there, but she also has built a model with her businesses in being sustainable. We have also had Paul Hawken as a speaker, and Ben Cohen from Ben & Jerry's has made an appearance. And most of those speaker appearances have been because of Carolyn Parrs, who you'll be hearing from later. She was the driving force behind getting most of these folks here. We also do events through some of our initiatives that are highly educational. We just finished our third Next Generation Water Summit this past summer. We started in 2016. The gentleman that's on the screen there is Jonathan Overpeck. He's a Nobel Prize-winning climate change scientist from the University of Michigan. And of course, you can't talk about water without talking about any type of climate change, especially here in the Southwest, even though we're getting dumped on right now. And we also were able to get one of the premier energy efficiency architects to do a study for us for this event that shows that water and energy are more tightly tied than we thought. For every gallon of water you use, another gallon of water gets used to get that water to you. Second leg of the stool is advocacy. One of the reasons I think we got so deeply into advocacy is because of my location here in the capital city of Santa Fe. Started with being close to the Roundhouse, and so the other sustainability groups, business groups around the state. At this time, there are 3 other green chambers of commerce, one in Las Cruces, one in Silver City. Took it upon themselves to say, well, since you're in Santa Fe, you should be the lobbyist. And so I took that on, and that's grown in several ways, just because of the location and because of the topics and because of the issues that have come our way. Spent a lot of time at the Roundhouse. We've been pushing forward the Benefit Corporation Act, as well as many renewable energy kinds of things. And through the methane cloud issue in the northwestern part of the state, where we have the largest methane cloud in the country, Chamber of Commerce, the Green Chamber of Commerce, was called upon to deliver a business message, and that is, if you are venting and flaring down in the Permian or up in the northwestern corner, that is property of the citizens of New Mexico, and so that has a value, and we are trying to get the royalties that we are deserved there. We've also done a lot with transportation and fuel. As you see, the methane initiative and campaign that we've been doing through the Environmental Defense Fund is just talking about wasting a natural resource that has a monetary value here. And of course, electric vehicles, we hope, are coming rapidly if we get some charging in. Most people think, and rightfully so, that when you're in the sustainability space, you're talking about renewable energies. We have been very active with some of the transmission line programs that are in the process, trying to get all that wind energy from the eastern part of the state. Solar, of course, has been growing rapidly in the state, and we hopefully, with the session that's coming up, we'll have a little bit more robust discussions about community solar that can help all kinds of communities be a little more independent in their power generation, as well as just private businesses. Action is the third leg in the stool of what we do. Unlike typical chambers of commerce, what we have been trying to do, rather than just tell you how you can do something sustainable, how you can conserve water, how you can, walk the walk, that we're trying to get the talk out there, and that is through some of the programs. So rather than just passing business cards and having a cocktail, we've been trying to figure out how to actually get sustainability into the businesses that we are trying to serve. The best example that we have here is in Santa Fe, where we worked with the city of Santa Fe in make a reservation to save water into the restaurant association here. And we have been, I think, fairly successful, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, in getting restaurants to conserve water in some very creative ways, and delivering the message to them from a business standpoint that you're not just saving water, but you pay for that. So you're also paying for, you're also getting to your bottom line by saving water. We've been doing the Think Local First guide in order to promote spending local, keeping your dollars in the community. Most of you, I assume, would know about the multiplier effect, whereas if you have your dollar spent at a locally owned business, that returns 3 times more money per dollar in sales than if you spend it with one of the chains. So if you spend $1 at your local bookstore, you're going to get about 48% of that, or 48 cents of that, in your community, as opposed to 14 cents. So these are kinds of things that we want to promote from a sustainability standpoint too, because it isn't all just wind and solar and fuels. The way we've been able to do that here, getting back to the water program, is through some very strong partnerships. One with the city of Santa Fe. Again, they were very creative in how they came up with their water conservation and their rebate programs. And these are things that we have developed into a pilot program that people are emulating around the country and hopefully around the state soon. One of our partners is Finn. That little device you see on the right side of your screen is an artificial intelligent learning water meter. And putting that to use in restaurants lets a restaurateur manager know exactly where their water is going by the ounce at any given moment on their cell phone. It also tells you when you have a leak. We found leaks were in 20% of all of our restaurants. So these are things that, I think can be done in any community. if you just pull together the right group of businesses and the right folks. One of the things that people look at from sustainability is the return on investment. And what we've been finding, and I think Carolyn will be able to amplify this somewhat, is that companies that look after all stakeholders rather than just shareholders are seeing that their performance is equal or above what you get in out of a typical investment or return on investment. And it's no longer just a niche. We have found, and some of these numbers will be reiterated hopefully when you do some research into benefit corporations, but when we started looking at things in 2012, you can see that we're looking at, $3 trillion in investment money that were going to sustainable and responsible investments, and that's moved up in 2016 to almost 9, and now we're pushing 12 trillion that are in social impact investment funds and foundations. And as I said, as you can see, performance has been pretty much on par with just your average S&P 500 investment dollars. Again, the asset growth has been huge in comparison to what it once was. And you can see here that one of the things, and Carolyn will really be able to dive deep into this, is that investors and consumers are looking at the intangible assets of a business as opposed to just the nuts and bolts and the dollar returns. So this is where your branding and your messaging become very important, whether you're a community or whether you are a business, and even small businesses, that makes a difference. And I'd like to just kind of close and pass this on to Carolyn, but one example that we've seen here in New Mexico is green bonding. Santa Fe is the first community to successfully become or to obtain a green bond and a certified green bond for their anaerobic digester. Never thought I would use the term anaerobic digester, but what it does is it takes methane gas from the wastewater and powers basically itself and the wastewater treatment plant. And the city of Santa Fe received about $16 million in bonding from that. And as you can see, green bonds are growing. And I think that for those of you who are in municipalities and in communities around the state, this is going to be a growing source of funding for whatever it is your project might do, as long as you prove it to be environmentally beneficial. And now I'll pass it along to Carolyn.
Thanks, Glenn. That was great. I didn't mention it at the beginning of the presentation, but we are taking questions, so feel free to write questions in the questions box on the right hand of the screen. Go ahead and type those in as they come, and then we'll take questions at the end, so feel free to do so. So I want to introduce Carolyn Pars. Carolyn is calling in from Seattle, I think, today, but she is the CEO of Mind Over Markets, and she's a strategic advisor, and she's been doing this since 2003, helping brands transform sustainability from a check-the-box approach to a strategic growth driver that can move their market and change the world. And she has experience in with advertising agencies, some of the top agencies all over the country. She and her products have appeared on TV shows, a lot of acclaim for the work that she's doing. And she also has created Women of Green, and this is a robust online community that really turns up the volume on for the feminine voice in everything green. So Carolyn, let me get your presentation going, and let's switch formats really quick. All right, Carolyn, you should have control, so take it away.
So, great. This is my last slide.
Oh, Sorry about that. Let's see, let's go
You
up.
can go backwards.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Johanna and Glenn, for inviting me on today. I'm so passionate about sustainable business. Been working with businesses of this level it's going to be my 17th year. Like, oh my goodness. And Mind Over Markets really helps businesses get to the heart and soul of their sustainable brand and their messaging so that they can really increase their revenue. And I'm going to show you why that's happening. In all the years that I've been involved in sustainable business, it is becoming an imperative where sustainable business is not a sidebar anymore. It's like the bar, right, for better business. And not only with our consumers, which I'll show you, but also with investors and funders, because it lowers costs, because there's risk mitigation that happens, because there's a market value and consumers are asking for it. So if there was ever a time for you to think about, integrating sustainability into your business, your current business or organization, and or starting from scratch and just having it right in your DNA of your business, this is the time. And I'm going to show you why. So hold on. Let me see if I can. Oh, there we go. Back up a little bit. Here we go. This is a Shelton study. 88% of Americans today think that the average person should be taking concrete steps to reduce his or her environmental impact. Okay, it is top of mind. And 78% of Americans feel that they have some personal responsibility to change their daily habits, right, and practices to positively impact the environment. From a product standpoint, right, that translates into products and services that are putting it right out there, right on their label. 44% of consumers are actually looking for the claims and that's why messaging is so important, looking for the sustainability claims before they make that purchase. Whether it's in the store or whether it's online, it's like I said, it's not a sidebar anymore. It's straight up, it's front and forward for sustainability. And thank you to the millennials and the Gen Z generation right behind them. They're mostly in college or graduating right around now, but they're more than 50% of the workforce, the millennials, and they're big. There's 92 million of them. And this generation, as you can see, most of them are online right now, that sustainability is what they grew up with, right? And it's not something that's an add-on, right? So they are really pushing the market even forward, more forward than it's ever been. They represent a $1.4 trillion disposable income. So a little bit about millennials, right? Here's what type of the question for this study was, what type of environmental or social business practices do you care about most? Number one was how they treat employees. So if we have some municipalities out here or corporations, right? Your sustainability messages, your sustainability or corporate responsibility practices matter. And this group coming up and in businesses right now really care about how you treat them and the companies that you're involved with. The second thing is, right on this chart, is 35% of them look at your environmental stewardship practices, your resource, waste management, habitat protection, and so forth. So really high on that list. Then next we see the social and health and humanitarian issues and causes you're involved with, and then after that product, and then ethics of the company. So really important right now to say that straight up with whatever business you're in. When millennials were asked about trusting a brand, right, 90% of them said that they would. If they trust a brand's environmental or social business practices, they will buy from them. And then 95% of them will share right, with their friends. And, there's a lot of sharing going on online. So here's another driver, right? And we're all probably feeling this, but it's especially true with the millennial group and Gen Z, is that they believe that climate change in the news, in the media, in front of us every day, right now, 76% of millennials are afraid. They're literally say they're scared about climate change. And 82% of them said for their children's life and quality of life going forward. So this is a big driver in what's happening here. It's not just a feel-good thing, which is, we love that for us diehards, but it's really a driver on what's happening to our planet right now. So all of this amounts to, wait, before I go to this, I just got this slide in, a new study right out. This is Gen Z, right? Gen Z, they are born, I think, 1997 and 2002 or 3, right? Here we go. They're mostly in college, maybe early 20s. And this is a study that just came out that says the environment, you see this right here? The environment is actually increasing from 2017 to 2019 on what they think corporate priorities, business priorities should be, right? Next is poverty and hunger, and in human rights, economic development, and so on. But environment is at the top of the list. And these are the ways that they will likely get involved with you, right? So if you can see here, which is really interesting, hold on one second, sorry. Let me close this out. They share their positive opinion in 2019, sharing a positive opinion about a company that is doing good. So doom and gloom messages do not work with this group, okay? So really, how do you spin it? How do you reframe your message to them in a way that is positive and upbeat? I know it's here. It feels like a juxtapose where they feel they're scared about the environment, but we don't want to get more of that piled on us with all that negative news that we see today. Let's see how we can do this positively. So that's really important. They will buy a product with a social or benefit or cause or benefit. You can see as well, and then there's more here about how that they'll likely get involved with you. If you notice, taking online action to trigger a donation, right? And also sharing their information online. So, and last, I wanted to point this out, they will protest to help their causes that they care about. That increased tremendously, I think, thanks to a lot of the young ones, such as who we all love is, Greta, and others that have really gone forward and been outspoken around this. So hold on one second. I'm advancing. Okay. I'm good. All of this results in, this is where it gets really exciting. This is a study that came out of Unilever. Right now, the global market for sustainability goods is $2.65 trillion, right? With another trillion in market opportunity for brands who can effectively communicate their product sustainability attributes well, okay? So this is an incredible opportunity, right? To be able to, it doesn't have to be what you lead with, but it has to be incorporated into your story. So how you message is a game changer here. How you message, and obviously that message has to be an authentic one, because we know a lot about greenwashing, right? And greenwashing is when you put out some claims that are not really true and you misrepresent who you are. We don't want to do that. But there is a way to talk about it in a way that's true to your company, okay? And this is an important piece. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about another study that came out of Madison Avenue. It's imperative you know who you're talking to. Who is your ultimate customer, right? So this study, this is happening right now. It's they just finished a study at Yale University, over 6,000 people that were in this study and reviewed around climate change, their feelings around climate change. And because 17 agencies in Madison Avenue have come together and formed a nonprofit to be able to help climate change go across the tipping point, right? Because there's still a large group, or I should say a meaningful group that are on the fence around this, and they wanted to be able to move it to the next level. And when I talked to John Marshall, who's heading up this effort, he says, hey, Carolyn, I hate to break it to you, but guess what? The messaging is not going to be environmental. And I knew that because I've been in this so long. You have to get what's true and authentic for the group that you're going to, and being able to reframe your message so it's meaningful to them. So this sample, I just want to show you 50%, pretty much 50-50 here, a range of ages, regions, employment, economics. But look at down here. This is what's really interesting. The climate change perceptions here. Believers, 48%, movable middle, right? This was the group that is on the fence right now. They can go either way. And then there are the deniers, and this group is just not putting a lot of effort here because it's hard to change their minds. But here is where the important piece is, because the believers are already online. They are targeting their message to the movable middle. 31% of Americans that believe that they can go either way. So when they did their studies, I'm going to just advance it here, they looked at 15 messages. And here they are. 15 separate messages around climate change, ranging everywhere between environmental, economics, family, children, and so forth. And here you're going to notice there were 2 messages of all of those groups where they came together. And one was here, making, and here we go, build an energy system that grows our economy and creates jobs. The message was, let's get to work. So that's an economic message, right? It's not like save the polar bear message. It's an economic one. And the second message that was high on the list, you can see where the circles are, is right over here, and our dependency on foreign sources of energy, powered by America. Those 2 messages is where all of those groups came together. So that is where they're targeting, right? And it's not an environmental message. So it's a really important piece on how you frame it, okay, going forward. So I guess the insight here that I want to share with you is the messaging insight is lead with what's meaningful to your customer and let the planet play the supporting role. And I know we want to reverse that, especially for like deep green businesses. But the truth is that it's all about the customer, right? Or else wouldn't be in business, and really digging into why they want that product, what's in it for them, and then the planet is your tipping point in your direction. And I'm going to show you some examples of that. Here's one company we worked with, BioShield Paints, and they're a non-toxic paint company. So they have a big message around low VOCs or no VOCs and toxicities in the home, and how to not breathe in those volatile organic compounds, indoor air pollution. But here's the thing, this is going to sound like a duh, but when we talk to their customers, what is the main reason, the number one reason they painted their homes or they painted their living spaces or offices, which was to make them more beautiful. That's what they were doing, to make them more beautiful. And BioShield had beautiful colors. And the secondary thing was that it didn't have toxins in it. So this is what we call the hierarchy of messages. Number 1, it was to beautify their spaces. And number 2, to not have the toxins. So the campaign that we came out with was Beauty Without the Beast, right? We led with beauty. with the beauty of their paints, with the beauty of what the results will happen after you use their products. And guess what? It doesn't have the toxins. So that was leading with what's important and letting the planet play the supporting role. Another example, Positive Energy Solar. They started off, early days of solar. The messaging was like, go solar, go solar. We have so much sun, go solar. Well, the solar industries did such a great job at that. They really did. And people wanted solar. But the thing that was in the way for many of them was, can I afford it? So the message changed because the times changed. And the message became affordability. So when we talked to Positive Energy about that, we found out that they were like really well liked, and the customer interviews, the customer reviews, they had were just off the charts. But there was a piece was like, can we afford to work with them? So the campaign we worked with was Positive Energy Solar. It pays to be positive. We looked at their look and feel and changed their message, and they showed their customers about the incentives and the tax incentives and other ways that they can really afford to put solar on their roofs. So notice how it pays, which is it was an economic message, right? First, and then talking about why you want to go solar. So that spilled out into a website, into a print campaign, and others. So just giving you two examples of how to create a message that leads with what's meaningful to your customers and letting the planet play the supporting role. That's the key takeaway I'd like to leave with you today. So just to break it down so you understand, when you're creating a message, you first start with you and your team. What's important? What's your deeper why? What's your big why? Then you find out the same for your customers. It might not be the exact same, but you're going to start seeing threads of where the connections are, just like I showed you in that Madison Avenue study. And then you look at the marketplace. What's happening out there? What are your competitors saying? How are they positioning their company, their products? And then after that body of work is done, then comes your ultimate message, and then your brand line comes out of that. So an example, I'm going to just tell you a few more things and then really pass the baton to Dawn, who's going to talk about Taos Ski Valley, who's living it, actually making this happen in their businesses. They became a B Corp, and how you can do it too. So a little shameless plug here before I circle it back is that if you're serious about sustainability, right, and you're saying, you know what, I really need to think about this, or I'm in and I really want to get my feet, get a head start and a launch well, we're putting together a program called Sustainability Labs for Strategic Growth. And this is a 4-part series that's starting in January. Why the time is now to engage your customers, inspire investors, and claim your competitive edge, right? There's 4 topic areas. One is about laying that sustainable groundwork, right? First and foremost, start there. Don't go right to messaging. It's like, do you have a groundwork for your sustainable strategy? And then next is then now, what is that strategy going forth? And how do I work it in my marketplace? Then third is like, there are collaborations that can help advance your sustainability efforts with other businesses that are non-competing. And then we take all of that good information and bring it together into communicating your story well. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Glenn, and on how we might be able to help you get your business off to a good start, right? And for anybody else, let me advance it, others that maybe that doesn't feel right, I want to offer a free messaging strategy session for you for being on this call today, so you can reach out to me as well. A little bit about Mind Over Markets. We've been doing this since 2003. It's in our DNA, right? We are highly experienced. We've been 30 years from mainstream America to Madison Avenue. I actually started my career there, so I bring that big thinking down to small businesses. So we have been proven to deliver really high impact marketing messages. I would love to help you as well. We've won awards for design and for content. And our process is a proprietary one, meaning how we'll take you through that branding process so that you can get to the heart of your message, so that you can quickly cut through the clutter of what's out there, pretty noisy what's out there, and deliver your message. We worked in over 20 different industries, from agriculture to spa to travel to recycling and waste, all across. A lot of our clients like that because it gives you a really well-rounded view of the world, and also what works in other industries that can be a crossover to yours. And this is just some of our areas of core expertise. We always start with brand. We always start with the heart of your message, and then everything trickles out from there. It's like the center of your wheel, and then there's spokes that come out, such as your website and your PR and your social media, which we can help you with. So these are just some of the clients that we've worked with, small and large, across the way in New Mexico and beyond. And there we go. So feel free to contact me there if any of this sounds interesting and you may be stuck with like, where do I go from here? Contact Glenn as well with Santa Fe Green Chamber of Commerce, which I was a founding member of many years ago as well. So thank you so much. I want to pass the baton now to Dawn and show you how Taos Ski Mountain is actually putting into practice and winning at the sustainability business level.
Thank you, Carolyn. That was great.
You're welcome.
Let's switch over. And it's so fascinating that a lot of what you're talking about it applies to communities too, which a lot of the work that we do in economic development is how can communities figure out what's valuable to them and what's important to the businesses they're trying to attract. So really relevant messages.
Yes, absolutely. We've helped a number of communities do that.
So I did want to interrupt our webinar for 1 second because I see on Twitter that Governor Lujan Grisham just released the 2019 New Mexico Climate Strategy Report. So I wish that we could say that we timed this webinar with release, but that's really exciting. It's that the climate task force that she instated at the beginning of her administration has been working on this. So that's available on her website and on Twitter. So, all right, so let's go to Dawn Boulware, and she is a native New Mexican and has worked with Taos Ski Valley, Inc. for over 25 years in various capacities. She's now serving as its Chief Administrative Officer and Secretary of the corporation and overseeing human resources, the administration office, as well as the B Corp certification, sustainability, and charitable giving. So she is doing a lot. She was awarded a SAMI Leadership Award in May 2019, recognizing all that she's doing in her leadership in the ski industry from the Ski Area Management publication. So as Carolyn mentioned, they're living it. So hopefully she can share some insight into best practices and experiences up there in Taos. So Dawn, you should have control. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Joanna. And hopefully I'm going to build on what both Glenn and Carolyn have been talking about this morning. So thank you to everyone who's joining us on this very snowy morning. We're pretty excited. We open in 1 week, and it couldn't be better timing on Mother Nature's part. So to build on Carolyn about building messaging. So in 2017, we became the first and are currently the only certified B Corporation in the ski resort industry. And we launched with our Ski to Change 2.0 just a few weeks ago. And this is what our homepage of our website looks like right now. It really highlights just the incredible culture and heritage we have here in Taos. And in 2014, the Blake family, who owned and operated us for almost 60 years, made the really difficult decision to sell to a private party. And he is dedicated to reinvesting into the resort to make it competitive within the resort industry. And so we talk about growing better and not bigger. But as we do that, right, it's really our values that guide us, and our Certified B Corporation really helps us make those everyday business decisions to really align with our values. So I encourage everybody to go out to our website, skitaos.com. When you click on the See How, you will go ahead and be linked to the various ways that we're living our values. And there's a great video we were trying to do as part of this presentation today, but unfortunately we couldn't get it going. So I encourage you to go out and look at that. We talk about the B Corp Statement of Interdependence. So I'm going to proceed here. This is something we've produced internally to help really permeate our B Corp values within the organization. So again, in the ski industry, to give you a little snapshot of what that looks like, there's two obviously major players, and that is Vail Corporation and Alterra. And those two corporations have really started gobbling up a ton of resorts throughout North America and actually throughout the world. And we are not a part of either of those. We're iconic and independent, and we're very proud of that. Again, emphasizing that as we grow, we're trying to grow better and not bigger. We really value the confluence of cultures that we have here in Taos. Obviously, that can be said for almost any place in New Mexico. And then allowing our B Corp ethos to guide that vision. So our purpose, we've simplified into enjoy, protect, give, and that is to enjoy this place and these mountains, both for ourselves and provide enjoyable experiences for our guests. To protect and enhance the environment. We definitely are experiencing climate change. I think anybody in New Mexico has experienced that over the last 10, 20 years between the fires and drought. 2 seasons ago, we had our very worst snowfall on record, which obviously impacted our business significantly, which then as the largest private employer in the region, it obviously affected the economy of Taos as well. And then lastly, to give back to our community and to our planet. And overseeing our charitable giving, that's something we've really, again, infused throughout our organization. So we also want to focus on our values. So we couldn't do anything around all of this work we're doing without having a positive can-do attitude. That's something we ask everybody to approach their work with. Focusing on caring for our people, caring for our business, and caring for the environment. Okay, so this is a highlight. This is something that actually B-Lab, and I'll get into who those folks are, provided in a presentation I was a part of earlier this year. But this really focuses on 2 ways to approach economic development. And one is community wealth building and kind of the traditional kind of old school approach. And you'll see as you kind of look through this slide, really, when we approach economic development by community wealth building, it's a much different structure than it is kind of the traditional way. So, right, the place is really important. Obviously, I, being a native New Mexican and native Taosenian, I'm passionate about Taos and know that as a business, we affect and our whole community. So really making sure that's top of mind. The ownership, broad-based ownership as the foundation of any thriving local economy. A lot of B Corps, we are not one, is our are employee-owned. So there's some great B Corps. I think, Carolyn, you focus on Positive Energy Solar. They are also a New Mexico certified B Corp, and they have an employee ownership idea. Multipliers, so buy local strategies to keep money circulating locally. A lot of our redevelopment, our revitalization, has really been focused on using local providers and local contractors. Honestly, that's something that our company has had to rely on since its inception. In rural northern New Mexico, you have to rely on your local community for things, and really creating those positive business relationships that helps the whole community. And lastly, a collaboration, really looking at what's going on in the community and how business can work with nonprofits, philanthropic organizations, government to really try to solve whatever issues are going on in the community. So this is something, and I think Carolyn alluded to this in her presentation, of how things have really changed in the evolution of business from the 20th to the 21st century. The 20th century was really focused on shareholder capitalism, and that a lot of the growth that Glenn talked about in his part of the presentation, and investment in ESG funds, things like that, really started to change. That when you're just focused on the shareholder, a lot of the other parts of the world don't work as well. So really, 21st century stakeholder capitalism is focused on a regenerative economy, regenerative agriculture, things like that, being inclusive rather than being solely focused on just one shareholder, and that multiple perspectives are taken into consideration. Here's some more stats to build on Carolyn's presentation. Again, this was provided by B-Lab, and 80% of global consumers agree that business must play a role in addressing societal issues. And probably more importantly, 86% of employees believe it's important that their employer is responsible to the society and environment. So I'll talk a little bit the difference between a certified B Corporation, which is what we are, and a benefit corporation. So certified B Corporation, it's a certification that is conferred by a nonprofit called B-Lab, and they are organized out of Philly, I believe. And that company, in order to be certified, has to meet a set of standards that is verified by B-Lab on their social and environmental performance. The mechanism for that is the B Impact Assessment. And for anybody who's interested, you can log on to www.bimpactassessment.net, and it's a free assessment any company can take. Over, I think, 50,000 companies have taken it throughout the world. So it's something that can help guide any company and use to really look at, like, what is this all about? What are the types of things I should be considering if this is something that's important to my business? We have to satisfy transparency requirements. So when we take the assessment, you get a score, and you have to make that score publicly available. And lastly, we have to make a legal commitment to consider all stakeholders in our business decisions and not just our shareholders. So this is available for any for-profit company in any country, and LLCs are included. Now, a benefit corporation, and Glenn, please feel free to jump in. It's a legal corporate form that has to pass state legislation. We've tried to do this a few times in New Mexico, and each time, for one reason or another, it's failed to pass. But you can still be taxed like a C Corp or an S Corp, but this, when you adopt the legal corporate form, there's some additional things that you need to do as well. The stringency isn't as much as when you go through the certification of a B Corp, but it does require you to do certain things every year to maintain this benefit corporation status. Glenn, do you want to add anything more to this?
No, well, actually, you covered it pretty well. But I think what we found is that in order to get your certified B Corporation, from B Lab that you have to be able to do that in your state after 3 years, unless the state doesn't have that availability, which has been one of the issues and one of the frustrations in not being able to get that legislation passed. So we're ever hopeful that we'll get that done in this 30-day session, which is going to be tough, but I think we've got a chance.
Okay, thank you. So B Lab, here's some more information about B Lab. It was founded in 2006, and again, it's the nonprofit behind B Corp certification. And the whole idea behind this movement is to support business and people using business as a force for good in the world. And as it says, B Lab's vision is that one day all companies will compete to be the best for the world, and as a result, society will enjoy more shared and durable prosperity. Okay, so this is just, again, some more information, kind of the 3 steps that that certification is based upon. And this information right here is the B Impact Report and what your overall score is. So the scoring goes from 0 to 200 in the impact assessment. And a company, in order to be certified, has to reach a minimum score of 80. And obviously, we became certified again in 2017. We are up for recertification this next year. So we're in the process of recertification. You have to recertify every 3 years. And so you have to take the assessment every 3 years. Now, the assessment is not static. It evolves. And currently the assessment we're taking right now is the 6th version of the assessment. So as the B corporation community evolves as well, there are certain things that really are highlighted and feel urgency within the community. Obviously, climate is one of those, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So again, you don't take just, the assessment isn't the same as the assessment we took 3 years ago. I think that's important to understand. So this is our certification. We, again, certified February 7th of 2017, and we reached a score of 89.5. It's a little hard to read here, but these are the 5 areas you're assessed on. So you're assessed on your governance, how you treat your workers, your relationship with the community, what you're doing with the environment, and then your customers. Our largest scoring area is community, something we're very proud of. It comprised of almost half of our points here. The average score of all the companies taking it is right here, and it's below 50. So you can see that there's quite a stretch. Obviously, there's a lot of growth too. I want to really point that out. So we're not trying to be saying like we've reached nirvana as far as a business concern. That's untrue on a lot of different levels. But right, it's that we did achieve certification, but we have a lot of room to grow. And really, the certified B Corp community really helps support in that growth. And right now, this is our active assessment. We haven't completed all of the questions yet. We have until before this February 7th date to submit this, so we're working through it. But I just want to point out a few things. Our governance score from the questions we have already answered almost doubled. It's at 14.8, where our governance one before was about 8.6. And our worker score has climbed quite a bit as well. We're up to 25.1 with the questions we've answered thus far. I also want to point out just the incredible press we got when we became the first certified B Corp in the industry. And all of these publications highlighted and have done stories on that certification and what it means to the industry. So this is to highlight some of the B Corps that you may or may not be familiar with. We talked about Positive Energy Solar in the state. Also, Meow Wolf is a certified B Corp. And the certified B Corp community in New Mexico is really starting to build, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But here's some kind of household names, I think. Cabot Cheese, Patagonia, they're kind of the leader in the B Corp movement. King Arthur Flour, Athleta, Danone, Ben & Jerry's, New Belgium, Wanderlust, Seventh Generation, Allbirds. There's some really amazing companies, and we are just so thrilled to be a part of this community. So this shows the growth in the B Corp community. So again, remember B Lab started in 2006, and then this has been the growth. And as you can tell, and it kind of mirrors what Carolyn was saying, right, about how important that this type of business approach is and is increasingly becoming. So even since we certified, 1,000 more businesses have certified since the time we certified. So that's really showing some amazing growth because they didn't reach 1,000 businesses until 2015, and it's really taken off over the last several years. So why would a company want to do this? Why would you want to go through this rigorous assessment and really challenge yourself to be a better business? So one is attract and engage talent. This is certainly something that has rung true for us. A seasonal ski industry is really hard to staff for. We have about 140 year-round staff, but then we swell to over 800 in the winter. And filling all of those seasonal positions can be really challenging. Thankfully, about 2/3 of our staff return every year, and that's something we want to even build on. And what we're noticing is last year, Jackson Hole was not able to open some of their lifts because they didn't have enough lift operators. I was just talking with our lift operations manager earlier this week, and he has actually had to close his position early, and they've had the best choice of applicants that he's ever seen. So really attracting and engaging talent, and I think that speaks to what Carolyn was talking about, that the workforce, especially who are attracted to seasonal work, are really those younger generations who think, right, working for a purpose-driven organization is something that they want to align with and connect with. The second reason is to differentiate from competitors. And this is something I think that's really important, certainly for us. The ski industry, as I mentioned earlier, has really become homogenous, and there's two major players. So independent resorts like us really have to work hard at getting their voice out there. So being a certified B Corp helps us do that to a much greater degree than we can, considering we're the only one in the industry right now. Protect mission. So this is a picture of Yvonne Chenard, who is really behind a lot of very conscious business, right? But protecting your mission, so making sure whatever company you've started, right, that should it sell, right, that the mission of the company still remains post-sale. Ben & Jerry's is a great example of this. They are owned by Unilever, who Carolyn talked about, and because they wanted to protect their mission, the certified B Corp status allowed them to do that, because you have to make that legal commitment when you certify. So that's something that's really important if you want to make sure that the kind of the core mission of your company carries on should it sell. That's something to consider, a way of protecting that. And sorry. A bit of a delay. And again, to kind of the funding pieces that Glenn spoke about and Carolyn spoke about, right? You're a lot, whoa, sorry, who went back? Let's try this again. You're really allowed, there's quite a delay here, so you're really allowed to help raise capital that are aligned with the values that you hold of why you're even starting your business. So I think that's a really important piece as well. So if you're curious about what we're doing as a resort, we've put together 100 ways and counting of ways we are supporting our B Corp ethos. And so I would encourage you to go onto our website and get involved in all the different ways that we're living our B Corp ethos. And this is something I want to highlight that transitions into some exciting stuff that's starting to happen in the state. So the B economy is built by everyone who works for, buys from, invests in, learns or teaches about, or support businesses striving to create a shared and durable prosperity for all. So the B Corp community is comprised of others besides just the corporations themselves. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So UNM's Anderson School of Management this fall in October helped host with the Certified B Corp community in New Mexico and the New Mexico Economic Development Department a day called Believe in New Mexico. And it was held at the Anderson School of Management. And here are some of the sponsors that are involved. And really it was to focus on what responsible and sustainable businesses look like in New Mexico and how we can build on this business model in New Mexico. So as part of that, there is also something called the UNM B Corp Clinics that will launch next fall. And as it says in the slide, any company who's interested in aspiring to be a certified B Corp will be matched with student teams at the UNM Anderson School of Management and help those companies to move towards certification. Companies will need to apply, and if you're interested, you can go ahead and email the team at nmbcorps@unm.edu, and they'll get you some more information on that. And lastly, we're kind of coming to a close here, is an effort that we're trying to put together called New Mexico for Good. And again, you can go out to this website that's on the slide, and there's a form to be completed. And as this program evolves, you'll be emailed out information about the activities and events that will be happening. The plan is to launch this in the spring, and there will be things like educational activities, so talking about the B Corp clinics from the previous slide, research activities. So currently Taos is participating in research activities with the UNM Anderson School of Management. Some of the professors are studying what the growth of the B Corp movement in New Mexico looks like. Also, they're looking at kind of all of the little decisions that B Corps make. So again, I would highly encourage you to sign up for this opportunity. And lastly, there'll be convening activities, so quarterly events. And then we hope to bring the Believe in New Mexico event, make that an annual event, again, with the collaboration with UNM Anderson School of Management. And lastly, I think it's just really important that this is something that's really gaining momentum within not only the United States, but throughout the world. And whether it's academics like UNM, investors, politicians, and business leaders agree that the B Corp movement is leading the way for the future of business. And this is just a quote. I'll let you all read it. I don't need to read it aloud. But really thinking about how our businesses can make a positive contribution to the world. And I'm really pleased to be able to be with one of those businesses. And I encourage you to look into this and see if it's a right fit for you or the business that you work with, and learn more about it. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dawn. That was great. And I hope that the snow continues up there. So let's go ahead and take some questions. I see that we've got some here. So we had one question, and go ahead and type them into the questions box. One question came in, how do you define a small business? That was from Mandy. Does anyone want to take that? I know that it's, maybe that's specifically, maybe we could ask it too, like, do you all have any feedback? Is a business too small to be certified for a B Corp as well?
Well, you know, let me just, the definition, the technical definition of a small business is 500 employees and under. And as we know in New Mexico, you know, there's probably a dozen companies that are over that. But, 96% of all business in New Mexico is considered a small business. And as you know, with the rural areas that we have, there is, a lot of mom and pop business. And I think that, some of these sustainability issues and practices into any business. We see the gig business growing in such a way that everything is sustainably oriented. And I think, Carolyn, did you have something to add to that?
Well, I mean, you did it in terms of employees, but also from a revenue standpoint, it's like $50 million and above and below is small business, and after that it goes to mid-level. So I think most businesses in New Mexico, right? I don't know as far as whether the B Corp you could a solopreneur, right? Become certified. That I'd probably ask Dawn.
Yes, there really is, I've met sole proprietorships that are certified B Corps. So again, really, I don't think there's a lot of barriers there. I know B Lab is really, because they're trying to build a movement, really focusing on multinationals right now. So there are a lot of support throughout the B Corp community in kind of the B local movement. And that's why we're trying to start something here in New Mexico to be able to support smaller businesses so that to help build that, since B Lab is really focusing more on multinationals. They're relying on the B local communities. There's a great one up in Colorado. Colorado has over 100 certified B corporations, and they have an incredible local community there. And we're along with UNM Economic Development, really trying to support smaller businesses in New Mexico to pursue that certification. So I wouldn't let size really prohibit you from learning more about the B Corp movement.
Great. And then I'll just add too that I see that Mandy asked specifically too for some of our programs for NMEDD, and we are not limited by even specific numbers. SBA, we use that broad classification that was mentioned, the 500 and under. So we loosely go off of the SBA for their guidelines. We had a question as well, and we got a comment from Elsie to Carolyn saying that you're an inspirational teacher from Soul Branding. And then Deborah Collins is asking about, is there any assistance available to prepare for B Corp certification? So do you want to just reiterate the opportunities there that you mentioned, Dawn? That you could just repeat that.
Sure, yeah. So in the fall of 2020, the UNM Anderson School of Management, the business school at UNM, will be holding B Corp clinics. And if you, I think you'll get the slides, and it'll have the email address to contact to get connected with that program when it comes online.
Wonderful, thanks.
Don, this is Glenn. I'm wondering, because part of, I think, the people that look at economic development are members of a municipality or some sort of community. And I'm looking at Taos, as I've known my entire life. It's basically a community. And as you have gone through the benefit corporation or the B Corp certification, there are businesses within the Taos Ski Valley that if I recall, don't belong to Taos Ski Valley Corp. And I'm wondering how they've adapted or adopted the benefit corporation practices that the Ski Valley itself institutes.
Yeah, there's been a change of ownership within kind of the locally owned businesses here in the village of Taos Ski Valley. So we're a really small community, and Taos obviously is the larger community that we're a part of. So I know just one quick anecdotal is Black Diamond Espresso has been. We love their coffee, and they have a great little place both here in the Base Area and up in the Katina Basin in the winter. And we stopped doing any sort of single-use water bottle, plastic single-use water bottles, and moved to a reusable water bottle for our guests. And I know that this summer, Jim, who owns Black Diamond Espresso, approached me and said, we really need to do something about our use of single-use plastic. Can you give me the contact information for the company you use for the reusable water bottles? So I think there's some permeation like that out. The broader community, I know that Taos Bakes, that used to be Taos Mountain Energy Bars, as they've grown and evolved, they're looking at certification right now. So, and I know just in general, if anybody, there's a lot of small businesses in Taos who are already doing this, and you don't always have to pursue certification. It was the right thing for Taos Ski Valley, but for maybe smaller businesses, you can still use that B impact assessment to guide your business decisions, but it doesn't have to mean that you have to be certified, and that's kind of what the New Mexico for Good program is all about, is to recognize those businesses that are doing amazing work in their communities with their business. Bueno Foods was one of the presenters. And they talked about all the amazing things they're doing within the community of Albuquerque. And they're not a certified B Corp, but they're still doing amazing work. So again, sometimes certified B Corp is not something that may work with your business, like it just may not work, but it doesn't preclude you from still using your business as a force for good.
Right. I think that the branding part of that is important, as our mayor here in Santa Fe declared that we were going to be the most sustainable city in the country. It didn't really require B Corp certification, but we've seen a lot of businesses on the uptake trying to adhere to that branding. So I'm glad to see that it's happening at the Ski Valley too.
I have a question, and it's kind of three-part for all of you. But as we talk to communities that have interest in supporting their businesses, whether it's energy efficiency or are looking at sustainable business practices, what advice do you have for them that, right now it's just an idea, they have an inclination that, how can they go about, what's your advice for them in terms of planning or first steps of implementing some type of, whether it's a plan, or what advice would you have for them? What are next steps if they just have an idea that they want to support an initiative like this?
Well, I think, from our standpoint, the city of Santa Fe, again, went through a long, arduous process to come up with a sustainability plan. And if you're a community, I think, that plan is accessible on the City of Santa Fe site. It's a great place to start. I mean, there's a lot to it, but starting with even just the smallest practices of sustainability for businesses, whether it's water or energy efficiency, those things are available in almost any size community. And, certainly if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer how we got started on some of those things.
I think, I'll just jump in. We created the Sustainability Labs for Strategic Growth for that exact reason. That so often it's like, yes, but I don't know how to begin. They'll go online and take a look at, there's so much information out there that you can begin, and I encourage to do that. But then sometimes you just have to sit down with your team. Those labs that we're developing, we also go right into a community or a corporation or a nonprofit organization, and actually sit down with them and can do it internally and work with their team over, 4 days or 2 days or 1 day, depending on their time frame. But it's just a really grounded way to just begin that process, because as you know, I mean, Dawn said this very clearly, and I have been in it forever. It never ends. It's an ongoing, evolving thing, right? So you have to begin somewhere. You take an assessment from where you are right now. You're probably doing, communities are probably doing a lot already, but what the problem is sometimes it's like a little bit here, a little bit there, and maybe even on their website, it's all over the place. So it's like bringing it all together and seeing what your sustainability assets and activities are right now. Some may need to be tweaked, some may need to be let go of, some may need to be pressed forward. And then after you know that, looking at the strategy, right? What is the process going forward, and what is the outcome you're looking for, right? Knowing what you're going for and your goal, and then coming together with other groups and collaborations that can help you get there together. A lot of times, I didn't say this in my presentation today, but there's a lot of competitors that are actually sitting down on behalf of sustainability. Coke and Pepsi, for the first time in the history of sugar water, came together and sat down because the millennials are pushing them towards climate change action. Both of those companies use a hell of a lot of water and also and other resources, and they came together to talk about how they can work together on behalf of sustainability and specifically for climate change. McDonald's and Starbucks did the same thing around a renewable cup, right? So that's obviously big businesses, but for small companies, for instance, my company, Women of Green, which is really it's not even a company, it's a project. I partnered with Glenn and the Santa Fe Green Chamber to put on a conference with Nell Newman, right? So it can happen on and a community can do the same thing. So that's about that collaboration to advance, and then obviously messaging it all so that it really makes sense, and very specific, clear messaging that says that it communicates what's needed and what you're trying to reach. So I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to build just briefly on that. I think Carolyn's emphasis on collaboration is just so important, and I think in places like New Mexico, Taos has a zillion nonprofit organizations, and what we're seeing is when the community comes together to say we want to solve this problem and all come together around it, that's really important. So one of the projects we're really excited to be a part of is the Nature Conservancy's Rio Grande Water Fund. And that's something that has over 80 some odd signatories, which we're a part of, and really addressing how we can take care of our forests and our watersheds to make sure that the whole state has water, right, in the Rio Grande. And our involvement in that has really been just so amazing. And what has been able to be achieved on that project has been really remarkable. And it's because there's that collaboration, and then there's leadership around something that everyone thinks is important and cares about. And so, again, really having that focus, having the collaboration, and really being able to engage on all levels to really move the needle on protecting our watersheds is something that has really informed us on how we approach other problem solving, both in the community as well as in our business.
Right. Beautifully said, right? And I just have to say this because the marketer in me, is like, jumping at this, but protecting our watersheds, right, which is ultimately what you're doing, and you might have already done this, but what does that really mean to the average person?
Right.
There's obviously for the deep green person, they get it, but what about, I'll just say mainstream for lack of a better word, but for everyone else, that protecting our watershed has a very very important ingredient, but it might need to be, you have to dig into that. So what is that really, what's the deeper why for, for everybody else? And it might be just for their, it might be for New Mexico and having the beautiful lands, right, for their children to grow up in, so that they had what they had, that they can give their children what they had when they grew up. So just getting to the core of the core message, so that everybody cares and it's not just one segment of the population.
Thank you all. I think that's a great note to end on, because it, when we look at the economy and kind of the direction that this administration is taking and really focusing on, I mean, we just had our new outdoor rec division was created, and recognizing that the outdoor rec economy is significant, and it can be even more significant to the economy here, that, we can't ski on the mountains and utilize the assets that we have if they're not around in a couple of years. So it takes that collaboration. And I'd like to just reiterate that there are so many resources that are available for businesses, for communities. Oftentimes at the state level, we are kind of that gateway. We can be that gateway. If you don't know where to get started, if you have questions in your area, contact us, contact Glenn, reach out to us, and we will put you into contact with folks that can either help collaborate with you on the ground level, and we can put together really key financing opportunities for you once you identify a strategy and a plan. You have a project. Let's find money and get it done. So really quickly, want to go and let you know of some upcoming events that we are having. That Fundit meeting that was mentioned. This is Fundit-Community. These are for the public projects, community development projects. Cutoff for applications is on the 3rd of December. You can apply online. Our next webinar series is about how to fund housing development projects. That'll be December 20th. Opportunity zones. We have an Opportunity Zones website you can check out. We are actively enrolling lenders and projects into our collateral assistance program. This is that program that can be really helpful for businesses that have a gap in collateral, that are looking for a business loan. We can participate in those deals and provide collateral. So obviously this applies if you're a business and wanting to do some type of a clean energy system. This can be really important. Or if you're an ag business and you struggle with collateral, if you're a service-based business and struggle with collateral, you can use this program. That finance fair that I mentioned coming up in Albuquerque, you can register at that link, and that'll be January 16th. We did get a question from Russ Mims down in Los Lunas asking about the types of businesses that can attend that. That's open to anyone, any type of business, even if you're not a business, you're just thinking about starting a business. This is the opportunity to just even learn about financing. If you're wanting to start a business and just contemplating getting a loan, you can attend that. And I do want to mention, Glenn reminded me that Electric Playhouse is a B Corp. Right? So really good opportunity to connect with a company and ask them any questions that you might have. And then want to remind folks, New Mexico legislative session will be starting January 21st. So good opportunity to contact your legislators and remind them to support any type of action that's coming up. And the Green Chamber is a good place to stay up to date on relevant bills that are going to be in front of the legislators. Yes,
We'll have our benefit corporation bill, I hope, as well as some of the energy stuff.
Oh, good. And then remind you too that that climate, the task force put out their recommendations. Those are available online too. So check those out. Here's our regional reps. These are the New Mexico Economic Development regional reps in all the different regions of the state. fantastic way to connect with resources, connect to the department. Also, New Mexico Main Street is in our department. They're a really good resource to get business help as well, and community development. Here's our contacts. So just want to thank everyone, and thank you to Dawn, Carolyn, and Glenn. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
It is still snowing. It has snowed the entire time, so I hope you can get out of here. But thank you for participating, and let's stay in touch. Let's continue to collaborate and bring this important topic to the forefront and figure out how we can all work together. So, all right, thank you guys, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.